It's done. The locker room is in a stage of chemo. Respectfully. It's over. Y'all seen Courtney Vandersloot go on camera and say, yeah, I will be back, even though other people were saying otherwise. I will be back. Courtney Vandersloot, you seen Ariel Atkins pissed off at Angel Reese at the podium? These are the same people who had her back when she was missing layup after layup after layup.
Shock ripped through the basketball world. The second Caitlin Clark was crowned #1. Not a ranking quietly released, but a declaration detonated across screens, locker rooms, and egos. Applause erupted, then fractured. Because somewhere far from the cameras, Angel Reese lost it. Not tears. Fury. Raw, unfiltered disbelief that curdled into rage as phones buzzed and whispers turned sharp. The announcement landed like a slap. Caitlin at the top, officially, undeniably, with Team USA's blessing hovering close behind. For some, it was destiny fulfilled. For others, it felt like erasure. Angel's circle tightened as voices rose, chairs scraped, and a single question burned. Who decided this and when? Inside Team USA offices, alarms sounded. Not literal sirens, but urgent texts, late-night calls, doors closing too fast. An emergency meeting was called before the celebration could cool. Too much tension. Too many bruised hierarchies. Too many players reading the same headline and feeling something snap. Caitlin felt the weight instantly. Praise came loud, but so did the silence from those who mattered. Angel felt the opposite. Noise everywhere, understanding nowhere. Cameras hunted reactions. Analysts sharpened narratives. Fans picked sides without mercy. This wasn't just a crown. It was a spark. A line drawn through rivalries, minutes, and medals. And as Team USA gathered behind closed doors, one truth loomed. Someone was about to be humbled, someone protected, and someone pushed past the point of no return. By dawn, nothing would feel safe again for anyone watching the fallout begin tonight only. Long before Caitlin Clark was crowned #1, long before emergency meetings and fractured smiles, the rivalry lived quietly beneath the surface, fed by years of comparison that no one asked for but everyone enforced. Caitlin and Angel didn't start as enemies. They started as symbols, molded by narratives far bigger than themselves. One was framed as precision and poise, the other as power and presence. The media needed contrast. Fans demanded conflict. The league benefited from the tension. Angel Reese learned early that respect wasn't given freely. It was wrestled for publicly and painfully. Every rebound felt like a statement. Every stare down was dissected. She wore confidence like armor because hesitation was punished. When she dominated, she was called emotional. When she spoke, she was labeled disruptive. Angel absorbed it all, building an identity around proving she belonged at the very top. Caitlin's path looked different, but the pressure was just as sharp. From the moment her range stretched past reason, expectations exploded. She wasn't just supposed to be great, she was supposed to be perfect. Calm, grateful, non-threatening. Every miss became a headline. Every celebration became a debate. Caitlin learned to smile through it, even as comparisons followed her everywhere like shadows. Team USA hovered in the background like a silent judge. Selection camps. Quiet evaluations. Whispers about fit, chemistry, image. Players felt it. They all knew that being elite wasn't enough. You had to be manageable. Angel sensed that her fire made people nervous. Caitlin sensed that her elevation made people uneasy. Different reasons, same tension. The emotional history between them wasn't built on personal attacks. It was built on proximity, on being measured against each other constantly, as if women's basketball only had room for one centerpiece at a time. Every ranking, every panel discussion, every viral clip stacked them side by side, forcing a narrative neither fully controlled. Angel carried chips that grew heavier with every snub she felt. Invitations that came late. Praise that came with conditions. She watched as Caitlin's moments were framed as historic while hers were framed as controversial. That difference burned. Not because Caitlin didn't deserve praise, but because Angel felt unseen in her own excellence. Caitlin, meanwhile, felt trapped inside a pedestal. Being elevated meant being isolated. Teammates joked, but distance lingered. Praise came loudly, but authenticity felt rare. She knew her success changed locker rooms. She could feel it. The way conversations paused when she entered. The way expectations shifted without being spoken. Team USA's internal dynamics amplified everything. Coaches preached unity while quietly ranking players in their minds. Minutes were promises not yet made. Roles were discussed behind closed doors. Angel wanted assurance. Caitlin wanted clarity. Neither got either. Emotionally, both players were exhausted long before the crown was announced. Angel felt like she was constantly fighting to be taken seriously on her own terms. Caitlin felt like she was carrying the burden of being the face, whether she wanted it or not. The league celebrated both, but never equally, never without subtext. Fans fueled the divide relentlessly. Social media turned every interaction into evidence. A glance became shade. A smile became arrogance. Silence became guilt. The noise never stopped, and both players felt it claw at their confidence in different ways. When early whispers of Caitlin being ranked number 1 surfaced, Angel heard them before they were confirmed. They hit like a warning shot. Not because she doubted Caitlin's talent, but because she feared what it meant for everyone else. Hierarchies harden quickly. Once a crown is placed, it's hard to remove without blood. Caitlin sensed the shift too. Praise from officials felt heavier, more final. Conversations with Team USA staff grew formal. Less casual, more careful. She realized she was being positioned, not just recognized. That realization scared her more than it thrilled her. Angel watched from the outside as momentum tilted. She replayed every sacrifice, every grind, every moment she'd been told to wait her turn. Waiting started to feel like a trap. Emotions swelled into frustration, then anger, then something sharper, betrayal. Neither player spoke publicly. But inside, the emotional fuse was burning fast. Because both knew something the fans didn't yet understand. When Team USA crowns someone number 1, it's not just an honor. It's a warning to everyone else. And when that warning finally became official, the explosion wasn't just inevitable. It was overdue. The moment Caitlin Clark was officially named number 1, the temperature inside Team USA shifted violently. Smiles tightened. Congratulatory messages felt rehearsed. And Angel Reese didn't hide anymore. The restraint she'd practiced for years snapped under the weight of confirmation. This wasn't rumor. This wasn't projection. This was institutional. Angel's reaction wasn't loud at first. It was dangerous quiet. Teammates noticed the way she stopped joking, stopped engaging, stopped pretending the hierarchy didn't exist. In closed practices, her intensity spiked. Every drill became a statement. Every possession turned personal. Coaches exchanged glances. Something was building. Caitlin felt it too. Not just from Angel, but from the room. Being crowned number 1 didn't make her powerful. It made her exposed. Every mistake suddenly mattered more. Every word she said carried unintended authority. She hadn't asked for that weight, but it was strapped to her shoulders anyway. The emergency Team USA meeting was called under the excuse of alignment. Everyone knew it was damage control. Doors closed. Phones silenced. The air inside the room was thick with unsaid resentment. Coaches spoke first, praising competitive fire and shared goals. But their eyes kept darting between Caitlin and Angel. The message was clear even if the words weren't. This situation was becoming volatile. Then Angel spoke. Not explosively. Strategically. She questioned transparency. Asked how rankings were determined. Why some players received clarity while others received silence. She didn't name Caitlin, but she didn't have to. The room froze. Every player understood the implication. This wasn't about jealousy. It was about process. About power. Caitlin stayed silent, heart pounding. She didn't want to be the symbol of unfairness. But she also refused to apologize for excellence. That silence was interpreted differently depending on where you stood. And that's where the fracture widened. A coach tried to redirect. Spoke about unity, about moving forward. Angel pushed harder. She asked why conversations about fit always seemed to follow certain players. Why emotion was labeled leadership in some, instability in others. The room shifted uncomfortably. Too close to truth. Too public for comfort. Then came the first shocking twist. A staff member, thinking the meeting was fully confidential, revealed that Caitlin's number 1 status wasn't just symbolic. It was tied to future planning, offensive systems, media strategy, even projected minutes. Not official decisions, but guiding assumptions. The words landed like a betrayal. Angel's face hardened. That was it. The confirmation she'd feared. This wasn't competition anymore. It was pre-selection. Preordained structure masquerading as merit. Voices rose. Teammates chose sides without saying so. Some nodded subtly. Others stared at the table. Caitlin finally spoke, her voice steady but strained. She said she hadn't known, that she didn't ask for systems built around her, that she wanted to earn everything on the floor. But damage doesn't wait for intention. Angel snapped back that ignorance doesn't erase benefit, that systems don't need permission to favor someone. Her words cut sharp, not personal but pointed. The room buzzed with tension. Coaches intervened too late. That was when the leak happened. Someone in that room, nobody knew who, sent a message. Not a full transcript. Just enough. Enough to spark chaos. Within hours, social media exploded with claims of favoritism, internal conflict, and locker room fractures inside Team USA. Hashtags ignited. Clips resurfaced. Narratives hardened instantly. Angel was painted as ungrateful by some, finally honest by others. Caitlin was labeled protected by critics, unfairly targeted by supporters. The league tried to slow it down, but the story was already running without them. Inside the team, trust evaporated. Players started watching what they said. Conversations ended when others entered. Practice felt colder, more transactional. Angel felt vindicated but isolated. Caitlin felt misunderstood but cornered. Neither felt safe. Then came the second blow of the twist, worse than the leak itself. Team USA leadership quietly adjusted internal rotations during the next closed scrimmage. Not officially announced, just subtle shifts. Caitlin was given control earlier. Angel's role was altered slightly, less freedom, more structure. Small changes. Loud message. Angel noticed immediately. She didn't confront anyone. She didn't lash out. She internalized it. And that made it far more dangerous. Because when players stop fighting outwardly, they start calculating. Caitlin noticed too. The change felt wrong. She felt the eyes again. Felt the narrative tightening around her like a trap. No matter how she played, someone would say it proved the system. No matter how Angel played, someone would say she was resisting it. The rivalry that had once been media-fueled was now institutionalized. Fans argued endlessly, but they didn't see the real damage. The trust between players was bleeding out slowly. The idea of unity was cracking under the weight of hierarchy. And just when Team USA thought the chaos couldn't intensify, Angel made a decision. She requested a private meeting, not with coaches, not with media, but with Team USA leadership alone. No teammates, no witnesses, no buffers. The request alone sent shockwaves through the organization. Because when a player like Angel Reese asks for that meeting at that moment, it means she's no longer trying to be understood. She's preparing to make a move. And whatever she planned to say behind those closed doors threatened to change not just her future, but Caitlin Clark's crown itself. Angel Reese walked into Team USA leadership's office with her shoulders squared and her voice controlled. But the fire underneath was unmistakable. This wasn't emotion spilling over. This was preparation. Every word had been weighed, every angle considered. She didn't ask for reassurance. She demanded accountability. She laid it out cleanly. The crown placed on Caitlin Clark wasn't the issue. The secrecy was. The structural favoritism was. The way decisions were being shaped quietly, then justified publicly. Angel said what others only whispered. That Team USA was building a future before competition had finished deciding the present. Leadership listened without interrupting, which only made the silence heavier. Angel didn't threaten. She warned. She said players were losing trust. That unity couldn't survive if transparency kept collapsing under convenience. She said the emergency meeting hadn't fixed anything. It had exposed how deep the fracture really was. And then she dropped the line that shifted everything. She said if the process didn't change, the narrative would change for them. That sentence landed like a loaded weapon. Within hours of that meeting, something shifted dramatically. Team USA didn't issue statements. Instead, they made moves. Quiet ones. Calculated ones. And those moves signaled panic. First came the sudden scheduling of additional evaluations. Not practices, evaluations. Film reviews reopened. Metrics resurfaced. Conversations that were supposed to be settled were suddenly under reassessment. The crown that had felt permanent now looked conditional. Caitlin sensed it immediately. What had felt like elevation now felt unstable. Coaches who'd spoken with certainty days earlier now spoke in hypotheticals. Her role wasn't questioned outright, but it was being reframed. Flexibility was emphasized. Adaptability. Team-first language that subtly diluted individual status. Angel noticed too. And for the first time since the crown announcement, she didn't feel powerless. She felt momentum shift. But the second major twist didn't come from Angel or Caitlin. It came from Team USA's internal review. During reassessment, leadership uncovered something explosive, something that had been overlooked in the rush to crown, promote, and package a star. A disagreement within the selection committee had been buried weeks earlier. A dissenting voice had warned against naming a clear number one so early, citing chemistry risks and locker room stability. That voice belonged to a respected former player turned advisor. And that warning had been ignored. When this resurfaced, panic set in. Because now there was proof, not opinion, that leadership had overridden internal concern for the sake of narrative control. If that detail leaked fully, the backlash would be catastrophic. So leadership did what institutions do best under threat. They tried to contain. A closed-door meeting was called again, this time without Angel. Without Caitlin, just executives and coaches. They debated whether to walk things back, double down, or sacrifice something smaller to protect the structure. That's when the unthinkable option entered the room. They discussed reframing the crown as fluid. Not revoking it, but redefining it. A rotating leadership concept. Shared spotlight. Language that could soften the hierarchy without admitting fault. A way to appear responsive without actually surrendering control. But there was a problem. Caitlin Clark wasn't just a player in this story anymore. She was the headline, the brand, the face attached to record ratings and unprecedented attention. Undermining her too visibly risked destabilizing everything they'd built. Angel Reese, on the other hand, had already been labeled emotional by critics. Leadership knew that narrative could be manipulated. If tension escalated, they could frame it as conflict management rather than systemic failure. That calculation never reached Angel's ears, but she felt it. The energy around her changed again. Coaches grew cautious. Conversations became clipped. Support felt conditional. She realized the danger of being the one who speaks first. Institutions don't forgive easily. Caitlin felt trapped in a different way. She hadn't asked for any of this. But now she was at the center of a power struggle she couldn't escape. If she stayed silent, she looked complicit. If she spoke up, she risked destabilizing her own standing. Every path carried consequence. Then the leak hit again. This time, it wasn't vague. A respected reporter published that Team USA leadership was reconsidering internal hierarchy models following player concerns. No names, but the implication was obvious. Fans exploded. Analysts speculated wildly. Was Caitlin being dethroned? Was Angel forcing change? Was Team USA fracturing? The pressure turned nuclear. Angel was asked for comment. She declined. Caitlin was asked too. She paused, then said she trusted the process. That single sentence enraged half the fan base and reassured the other half. Lines hardened. The rivalry narrative reignited at full force, now fueled by institutional stakes instead of hype. Inside Team USA, the atmosphere collapsed into quiet hostility. Teammates chose survival over honesty. Every drill felt like an audition. Every huddle felt staged. And then came the most dangerous escalation yet. Team USA leadership decided to hold a joint meeting. Angel, Caitlin, coaches, executives, all in one room. No filters, no spin. The stated goal was alignment. The real goal was control. Angel walked in knowing this was the moment institutions try to reassert dominance. Caitlin walked in knowing this was where silence could become surrender. The air crackled with history, resentment, and unspoken fear. Before anyone else could speak, Caitlin stood up. And that's where everything was about to change again. Because whatever she was about to say, whatever side she chose to acknowledge or reject, was going to shatter the balance completely. And nobody in that room was ready for what came next. Within minutes of that joint meeting, something shifted outside the room. Phones lit up. Notifications stacked. Someone leaked the fact that Caitlin had stood, that Angel hadn't backed down, that Team USA leadership looked rattled. The details were incomplete, but the tone was unmistakable. This wasn't unity. This was fracture. Social media detonated. Fans didn't wait for facts. They chose sides with surgical cruelty. Caitlin supporters framed her as trapped, targeted, unfairly burdened with a crown she never asked for. Angel's supporters called out systemic favoritism, praising her for daring to challenge power in a league that punishes outspoken women. The timelines became war zones. Clips were spliced. Old quotes resurfaced. Every facial expression was reinterpreted as proof. The league tried to calm it. A carefully worded statement emphasized collective leadership and ongoing dialogue. It satisfied no one. Instead, it confirmed what fans already suspected. Something was wrong, and the truth was being managed. Angel felt the backlash immediately. The same labels she'd fought her entire career came roaring back. Divisive, emotional, problematic. Endorsement chatter cooled. Media requests became loaded with implication instead of curiosity. She held her composure publicly, but privately the weight crushed. Speaking up had cost her more than she'd prepared for. Caitlyn's experience was different, but no easier. She was flooded with support, but it felt conditional. Praise came with expectations attached. Fans told her to lead, to fix it, to rise above. They wanted her to be the solution to a problem she hadn't created. The pedestal grew taller and lonelier. Any misstep now would be magnified as evidence of entitlement. Inside Team USA, trust evaporated completely. Teammates stopped sharing openly. Everyone feared being the next leak, the next headline. Practices lost their edge, replaced by tension so thick it hummed. Coaches felt it slipping. Chemistry couldn't be coached when resentment lingered in every silence. Media pressure intensified. Analysts demanded answers about the crown. Was Caitlyn still number one? Had Angel forced reconsideration? Was Team USA fractured beyond repair? Every show led with the same question, and no one inside the organization answered directly. That vacuum made everything worse. Angel watched narratives harden without her voice. She considered speaking out, really speaking, but knew how that would be framed. Angry, bitter, unprofessional. She stayed quiet, and the silence was weaponized against her anyway. Caitlyn watched Angel absorb the storm and felt something twist inside her. Guilt, frustration, responsibility? She couldn't tell anymore. What she knew was that the crown now felt poisoned. Every cheer carried an echo of conflict. The public began speculating about long-term consequences. Would Angel distance herself from Team USA? Would Caitlyn become the lone face of a fractured program? Would other players speak up or fall in line? Then came the most painful emotional shift of all. Fans started asking whether the rivalry had gone too far. As if the rivalry wasn't built by years of comparison, imbalance, and silence. As if it had erupted from nowhere instead of being fed deliberately. That question alone revealed how little accountability the system was willing to take. Behind closed doors, Team USA leadership scrambled. Sponsors wanted reassurance. Broadcasters wanted stability. No one wanted to be attached to controversy without control. Pressure flowed downhill, and players felt it in every interaction. Angel began questioning whether telling the truth had been worth it. Caitlyn began questioning whether staying quiet was. Both were exhausted. The public didn't see the nights Angel stared at her phone, debating whether to step back entirely. They didn't see Caitlyn rereading messages from mentors, trying to understand how leadership could feel so isolating. They didn't see how close both were to breaking in different ways. And still, the noise grew louder. Hashtags trended. Polls ran. Debates raged. The league's biggest moment had turned into its most volatile. Then, just as the chaos peaked, Team USA scheduled another announcement. No details. No agenda. Just a time. The internet froze. Because everyone knew what that meant. A decision was coming. And no matter what Team USA said next, someone was going to lose far more than a crown. As the clock ticked toward that announcement, Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark stood on opposite sides of a spotlight neither of them controlled anymore. And only one question remained unanswered as the world waited in suspense. Who would Team USA protect when the truth finally had to land? No build-up. No ceremony. Just a sterile livestream frame and carefully chosen words that landed like a blade wrapped in velvet. Team USA didn't revoke the crown. They didn't defend it either. Instead, they introduced a phrase that changed everything. Performance leadership rotation. The room watching went silent. It sounded collaborative, progressive, safe, but everyone understood the translation immediately. The crown wasn't gone, it was destabilized. Caitlin Clark was still number one in name, but the authority attached to it had been diluted. Angel Reese wasn't elevated, but she wasn't erased either. The hierarchy had been blurred just enough to protect the institution, while forcing the players to absorb the fallout. The twist wasn't what they said. It was what they avoided saying. No apology. No acknowledgement of secrecy. No ownership of the internal override that started it all. They framed it as evolution, not correction. Angel heard it and felt the sting instantly. Her challenge had moved the needle, but not enough. The system adjusted around her instead of confronting itself. She'd forced transparency just far enough to trigger fear, not reform. And now she stood exposed, labeled internally as difficult, even as the public debate raged. Caitlin heard it and felt something collapse inside her chest. The crown she never asked for had been reshaped into a compromise she never agreed to. Leadership without clarity. Authority without protection. She was still expected to lead, but now without the stability that made leadership possible. Both had lost something vital. Then came the real twist. Hours after the announcement, a private message surfaced. Sent from an anonymous Team USA insider to a journalist known for accuracy and restraint. The message didn't leak quotes. It leaked intent. It claimed the rotation model was temporary. A holding pattern. A way to buy time until pressure cooled. And once it did, leadership planned to reassert a single face, quietly, decisively. The message ended with a chilling line. Only one of them fits the long-term vision. The internet exploded. Now the story wasn't rivalry, it was elimination. Fans tore into the leak with fury and fear. Who was being phased out? Who was being protected? Angel's supporters saw confirmation of systemic bias. Caitlin's supporters panicked, realizing how fragile her position actually was. Analysts argued over coded language. Fit, vision, marketability. Angel felt the ground shift beneath her again. She'd pushed the door open, and now someone was trying to slam it shut quietly. She considered speaking publicly, naming the problem outright, forcing the league to confront itself. But she also understood the risk. Institutions don't forgive exposure. They punish it subtly over time. Caitlin felt the pressure converge from every angle. If she stayed silent, she benefited from a system under fire. If she spoke, she threatened the very stability being promised to her. Every option carried collateral damage. Leadership now required choosing who gets hurt. That night, both players received the same call from different people inside Team USA. Be careful. No explanation. No reassurance. Just a warning. Angel realized something in that moment. The meeting she demanded hadn't been the end. It had been the beginning. The system was adapting, and adaptation often means erasing the variables that cause discomfort. Caitlin realized something too. Being crowned wasn't power, it was visibility. And visibility makes you replaceable the second you stop serving the narrative perfectly. The final image wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. Angel leaving the facility alone, phone face down, jaw set, understanding that truth has a cost she might still be paying months from now. Caitlin sitting in her car, hands still on the wheel long after the engine turned off, realizing that leadership without honesty is a trap disguised as honor. Team USA released no further statements. But behind closed doors, plans were shifting. Evaluations were being rewritten. Futures were being weighed not just on performance, but compliance. The cliffhanger wasn't whether the rivalry would continue. It was whether either player would allow the system to decide who they were allowed to become. Because the next move wouldn't be made on the court. It would be made in silence. And when one of them finally broke that silence, the league wouldn't be able to control what shattered next. Because what just happened between Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, and Team USA is bigger than rankings, bigger than crowns, bigger than rivalry narratives pushed for clicks. This is about power deciding outcomes behind closed doors, and daring players to stay quiet if they want to survive. So here's the truth fans can't ignore anymore. If you celebrate Caitlin Clark's rise, you must also defend her right to clarity, honesty, and protection from being used as a shield for institutional decisions she didn't make. Leadership without transparency isn't leadership. It's pressure dressed up as praise. And if you support Angel Reese's courage, you must recognize the cost of speaking truth in systems that punish discomfort. Challenging power shouldn't label a player as difficult. Silence shouldn't be the price of opportunity. This league doesn't get to demand authenticity from its stars while disciplining them for showing it. Fans matter here. Media matters here. Silence matters most of all. Pay attention to who is praised for being professional and who is criticized for being emotional. Watch how language shifts when accountability is inconvenient. Notice which players are protected by ambiguity and which are exposed by it. Because the future of women's basketball isn't just about talent. It's about trust. If Team USA wants unity, it must earn it with transparency. If leadership wants loyalty, it must stop weaponizing narratives. And if the league wants growth, It must stop forcing its biggest stars into roles they never agreed to play. So speak up. Share responsibly. Question respectfully. Refuse lazy narratives that reduce complex power struggles to petty rivalry. This moment will define how the next generation of players chooses to lead, or chooses to stay silent. Angel Reese didn't lose it. Caitlin Clark didn't steal anything. What cracked was the illusion that excellence alone protects you. And what happens next depends on whether fans demand a league that values truth over control, or rewards silence because it feels more comfortable. The spotlight isn't leaving. The question is whether accountability finally steps into it.